Hey folks, how you doing? It's Paul from Craft Words. This is the latest in our Ask Me Anything series of videos. We've got a question this week from Daniela Kosu. I hope I pronounced that properly. You asked, do I have any tips, tricks, or tools that keep me inspired? That's a very good question. There are a few. I'll do a sort of a bit of a quick run through those three things. So, in terms of tips, one thing I always say is to people is look outside of advertising for ideas. It kind of never ceases to amaze me how many people, when they're working on a brief of whatever kind, will just look within advertising. What are the competitors doing? What are other people doing? What have we done before? I totally get why you would do all of that, and that should be part of your process. But the danger of doing that is that you just get stuck in a bit of an echo chamber. So I really like the idea of looking outside of advertising. There's a great writer called Maria Popova. She does a newsletter. I think it was called Brain Pickings. It's changed. I can't remember what it's called now. But she used to work in an advertising agency, and she saw exactly this problem, that people needed to look outside of advertising for ideas. So I kind of very much follow that line of thinking. And she does this really cool thing called literary jukebox, where she takes a piece of text, some writing of some kind that she likes, from novels, whatever it is, and pairs that with a piece of music. And I love the lateral thinking of that. I did a similar thing years ago. I gave a friend a present. It was a copy of the book Girlfriend in a Coma by Douglas Copeland, who was one of my favorite authors. And with that book, I made a mix CD. Remember when those were a thing? I made a mix CD with what I thought would be the soundtrack to that book if it was ever made into a film. And so there's a bit of lateral thinking there that I really like. So that would be my tip. Look outside of advertising. Tricks, do your research for something you're working on. That does not mean going to Google. You can do that as part of your research. Of course, online research is really valuable, but get away from your desk. Go and do something a bit sort of unexpected. Malcolm Gladwell has a really cool thing that he does where he will go to a library. Again, remember those? He'll go to libraries and speak to the people there, speak to the librarians, and research the subject that he's interested in, and speak to them and ask them questions about it, because quite often they'll say, if you're interested in this subject, you should think about looking at this subject. And so it'll take you in areas you wouldn't maybe have thought of before. And he does this other thing where he'll go and look at the stacks of books, either in a library or in just a bookshop, and just see, let's say he's researching finance, for example. He'll go and look at the finance section, but then look at the books that are next to that. Because again, it's just something a little bit unexpected, that it might have a bit of that subject in it, but it's also got something a little bit that you weren't expecting. So as much as possible, get away from the desk, get out of the office, go for a walk, just do whatever you can to do your research in a slightly different way. And tools, there's one I'll mention which I think a bunch of students created years ago, and it's fantastic. It's called Deck of Brilliance. I'll try and put the link down below. If I don't, then you'll be able to find it very quickly if you do a search. I want to give I don't know the names, but I'd love to give the credit to the people who did this, because I think it's great. What they've done, they've kind of looked at a bunch of ads, and they've split them into something along the lines of about 30 categories, maybe more. And it's this idea that you can actually template ads, you can actually template creativity, and that might make a lot of people shudder. It doesn't mean that you can do A plus B times Z gives you a great ad. It doesn't mean that. It channels your thinking a little bit. It shows you different ways of thinking about creative ideas, and to be honest, will just sort of save you a lot of time. It's a bit like if you think about a musician, they don't sit down and try and write new notes. They've got a set of notes that they work with, but out of that mixture of notes can come any number of amazing compositions. It's a bit similar with this, that you can use all of these different kind of categories, all of these different ways of thinking, make the product seem expensive, show what a lack of the product would look like, show what too much of the product would look like. You can use these things, the tropes, whatever you want to call them. What comes out the other end can be completely different and unique. That's fine. But knowing that these things exist can really help channel your creativity. Dan and Chick Chip Heath talk about this a little bit in Made to Stick, which if you haven't read it, go get a copy now. Genuinely, it's fantastic. That's it. That was a slightly longer video than I intended it to be, but Daniela, I really hope that answers your question, and please give us more questions down here in the comments. I'm really enjoying the feedback, folks. I hope you're enjoying it too. All right, take care and see you next time. Bye-bye.